And now it's time for Healing from Within with your host, Tony Valen.
Welcome to Healing from Within. I'm your host, Tony Valen. You can contact me, tony@tonyvalen.com, or visit our website, healingfromwithin.net. Follow us on Twitter, @TVHFW. Joining us on today's show is Sandy Rueve. Sandy is a creator of intention beads, combining bead-making skills and her astrological wisdom. To learn more about Sandy, you can go to her website, www.intentionbeads.com. The lovely and talented Sandy Rueve. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thank you. How's Tampa today?
It is raining. Typical Tampa. It rains and then it gets humid, and I stay indoors. It doesn't bother me. So it looks great from the window.
Okay, good. Well, I'm in Chicago, and it's nice and kind of chilly summer day. So we'll take this.
Yeah, that sounds good. So let's get started. Sandy, we met you at the Tampa Body, Mind, and Spirit Expo. Tell our listeners what it is that you do.
I make talisman. So I hand roll millefiori art at certain astrological transits and relating the keywords of the transits, the planets, the houses, the energy that's available at that particular moment, I put into the clay beads when I make them. So indeed, it's the definition of a talisman. I have an elevator description when people ask me what that is. I say a talisman is a personal art object, often made in clay, that has sacred powers. But actually, I'd like to read the description of a talisman, the dictionary version.
Please do.
A talisman is an object which purports to contain magical properties, which would protect the possessor from evil or harm or provide good luck. The word comes from a Greek word and from ultimately a Latin word, which means to consecrate. Talismans and amulets are often considered interchangeable despite their differences. For example, the amulet is an object with natural magical properties, while a talisman must be charged with magical powers by a creator. And this is the act of consecration or charging that gives a talisman its magical powers. The talisman is always made for a definite reason, while an amulet can be used for generic purposes, such as averting evil or attracting good luck. So the fact that I make talisman based on auspicious planetary transits, using those key words, and those are the definite reason why I make the beads at that time. So I roll the beads, I put them in the oven, and that intention is set in clay, ready for the wearer. Now to reinvigorate that bracelet or that orbit necklace by monitoring, repeating those key words that I put into the clay bead as a talisman. Therefore, manifest their desire.
Very interesting. And I like to explain to the listeners that we're actually recording this and you're in your studio. So any background is your actual live studio.
And, I apologize for not mentioning it. I practically live here, actually, Tony. So I forgot. Yes, we have an open studio concept here in Chicago. So you'll hear what we're hearing is the sirens and the front door opening and possible telephone ringing. I have a group of girls here making their own beads. So yes, we're an open studio concept. So I apologize for any other conversation going on in the background.
No problem. I just thought we'd bring it to the attention of the listeners so they're not thinking that you're having an emergency or something.
No. Sorry.
Okay. So tell us about the orbit necklaces and the intention bead bracelets.
I make intention bead bracelets that are about a 10 millimeter size bead that I make at that auspicious time. I bake the bead for a half hour, and then I string it with a Swarovski crystal. These beads have value, and so I add value in a beautiful crystal way. I add one extra bead I make at that time called the gratitude bead. This is a bead that hangs from the bracelet in which we need to pay gratitude for everything we have in our lives. Why would our God or our universe give us what we're asking for if we're not grateful for the things they've given us already? The part of the process of the intention bead wearer to go through a ritual or a ceremony every morning upon wearing their bracelet, repeating the affirmation so that the subconscious mind believes this and the conscious mind achieves the goal. So these are the bracelets. They have more power than the orbit necklace is one bead, and it has a succinct message, not as detailed as the intention bead bracelet, but more of a succinct definition. For example, if several days ago, I made intention bead bracelet and an intention bead orbits. And for the bracelet, it says the intention is to be charming and genuine. The affirmation of that is, I radiate my inner excitement. I easily flow with loving feelings. This is all the words, all the detailed words for the bracelet. The orbit made at that same time says, I am charming and genuine. So those are the words that one would repeat wearing their orbit necklace while they twirl it around in their fingers around their neck. Because it's orbit. I called it orbit because it rolls between your fingers inside of a frame, and it's the orbit of the zodiac in the sky.
And they do that as they do their affirmation.
Correct. They repeat. We all dawdle with things around our necks, right? Mm-hmm. And so I built this so that when, like right now, I've picked mine up and I'm twirling mine in my fingers, and I know what mine stands for, and I'm repeating mine right now in my head. I'll share with you.
Sure.
I live my dream. So every time I touch this and play with it, I'm reminded I live my dream. And I have to be grateful for that because I get to play with clay all day. I get to work with customers. I get to do what I want to do. I get to study this amazing science of astrology. I'm an entrepreneur, and I started this business where nobody's doing this work. This just kind of came through my destiny of my life. So, which I'm happy to tell you a little bit later on in the show.
Yeah, and I have to say that is one of the main things that attracted us directly to you, apart from your wonderful energy. Also, the fact that you are unique in what you do. I had never seen that before, and I doubt that anyone else has seen that before as well. Tell me, do you have a bracelet and an orbit that go together?
Absolutely, yes. I always do. 4 years ago, do you mind if I quick do how I got to the orbit necklaces? I just started making those 1 year ago.
Yeah. No, please. Yes, absolutely. That's what we're here for.
When I had the aha moment 4 years ago that I knew how to put power into beads, I started making intention bracelets. Now, these are the bracelets that have the higher power, and these are $128. And I have maybe 30 in my stock. That is not going to heal, motivate, and inspire the world. It's not like I can sit any time because I'm low in stock to make beads with power. It's just not going to work. And so I had to come up with a way, because as my business is growing and as people are reaching out for their personal intention bracelets and knowing that they have the power within themselves to manifest a desire, that I had to come up with a way that if I'm given 2 hours to make beads for a bracelet that may take me an hour to make one bracelet, how can I make more products in that 1 hour time, or the 2 hour time frame? Yeah. So I thought, if I make smaller beads and used one bead for one product, and I can make 45 beads in that time frame, I've made one bracelet and possibly 30 orbit necklaces that are 30 products. So this would help, say, 31 customers with this intention. So a year ago, that's when I had that realization that, as a businesswoman, I needed to have more products. But with authenticity and with the passion that I know I am putting something out there that is true to my word and its word. And so I came up with the orbit necklace, which is one bead and a more succinct message, repeat to yourself. And these are then now $29.95 because they're more attainable.
And I noticed that they have different numbers assigned to them. Can you explain the significance of that?
So with collecting my data, because every bracelet, every orbit has a chart. Let's say it has a birth chart. I birthed these beads by creating them with my fingers and hands on a certain day at a certain time in a certain place of the country. And so they've had a birth chart. So I assign a number to that so that in my binder, I have that assigned number that goes with the charts, that goes with the keywords, that go with the bracelet, that then attaches to someone who purchases the bracelet. And I then, every few months, reach out to these consumers. Mm-hmm. They all turn into my friends in some sort of way because I feel that I'm connected to them in some sort of way, that I reach out to them through their email and ask, I'll ask, Sarah May, how's the relationship coming with her significant other? Because that's the bracelet she bought 6 months ago.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
And so I collect all this data. And so for me, numbers help me find that birth chart. So that's why a bracelet would have the same number as the orbit necklaces.
Very interesting.
All made on that same day, in that same moment.
And that date that you assign to them, is it the time you start on them or the time you finish them?
The time I start. Good question, Tone. The time I start, because once I begin a process, mm-hmm. that energy is staying with me until that energy changes. And that's why oftentimes I have to stop. And I'm always watching my clock in meditation during this time because I have to stop at a certain time because the energy will change. And I use the ascendant ruler.
Mm-hmm. And doesn't that put you on some type of, doesn't that put you like on pressure, oh my God, I got to finish, blah, blah, blah.
No, I'm pretty well managed. I always do, I should say, the bracelets first. Mm-hmm. So if I know, for instance, yesterday, do you know that we have Sun conjunct Jupiter in the sky right now?
Yes.
In Leo?
Yes, in Leo. So it's a great time to start new adventures and whatnot. Is that right?
Well, and then we'll get the new moon tomorrow evening at 6:42 p.m. That's the time to start the new adventure.
Oh.
But for the Sun and Jupiter conjunct in Leo, we haven't had this for 13 years.
Wow.
So remember, Jupiter expands anything it touches. So Jupiter is expanding the Sun. So it's expanding our vitality, our personality. Tony, good time to do an interview with me.
Perfect.
So, the Sun is in Leo where it rules. So this is about heartfelt abundance. It's about self-esteem. It's about confidence. So that's what's going on in the sky. And yesterday I spent probably 6 hours doing beads that relate to those words.
Really?
Yes.
Wow. Amazing. So before I forget this question, I wanted to ask you. So you said you keep the records based on the numbers you assign to the necklaces and the orbits. And how long do you keep those records?
Well, I've been doing this work for 4 years. So I have from my very first intention bracelet, my very first orbit, to my very first personal client. So for 4 years, and I'll keep them forever. These talismans are, because they're baked, the intention is set. It's ready for that wearer any time of day, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. It's a talisman. It holds that energy forever.
Wow. Yeah.
So with this work being fairly new of 4 years, I'll have a library by the time I'm done, and I'll be able to follow those women and men through to I've got some people on their 5th intention bracelet that they've achieved their first desire, mm-hmm. gone on to another one, because we always have goals and things we want to manifest, right, Tony?
Right, absolutely. And I know you mentioned ascendant ruler. Can you please explain that to the listeners, what that means?
Yes. So let's use yesterday's chart, for instance. Now, I wanted to grab when the Sun and Jupiter were conjoined exact in the sky. And of course, I could go to one of two things. I could have gone to the ruler of the Sun, well, the ruler of Leo, excuse me, which is the Sun, but it was rising in Leo, so I did it right at the time it was rising. So I was up watching the Sun come up, making beads at the exact time when Jupiter was conjoining it let me pull my chart exactly here, at 5:33 a.m. yesterday in Chicago, when we had a 0-0 Leo rising. So that means I have the most time to make beads because I'm starting a 0-0, which will go up to 29, 59 degrees, and then I will stop because the next sign coming up over the horizon is Virgo, and the energy changes.
Interesting. Yeah. And the actual making of the beads, what's the process of making the beads and what are they made of?
Oh, okay. So I'm a Millefiori artist of 21 years.
What is that?
I know. So it's a very similar process that is done in with the Murano glass. So Murano glass is layered with different colors of rods. I do it with polymer clay because I work in clay. So I create these canes, C-A-N-E, of Millefiori. Now, if we were on TV, I positioned myself in front of my cane wall, and you can see behind me all of this, although this is probably 200 of the 45,000 different patterns I've made in the last 21 years.
Wow.
So I go to the wall. I also have a studio at home, and I have a portable studio that when I travel, because trust me, I'm not leaving this energy if I'm even on the road. I'm taking it with me, and I'm making beads. If I happen to be in Tampa, if I'm in Santa Fe, if I'm in Ohio, I just reset the time and make beads. I don't want auspicious power and energy to leave without being in a tangible art object. So I go pick 6 different patterns at that exact moment at like 5:33 yesterday morning. And I picked 6 patterns and used my razor blade and my cutting board. And I started slicing these patterns. I sliced them and wrapped them around a core bead that I also make. I roll, and repeat the keywords of the affirmation and intention that I wrote about the particular energy. And here's what yesterday's was. So while I'm rolling these beads to blend the seams, keep the bead round without distort pattern, I am repeating to feel very good on all levels. I am positive today and tomorrow. I am positive today and tomorrow. I am positive today and tomorrow. Repeat, repeat, repeat as I roll these beads. Now to make 14 beads that get strung into a bracelet takes approximately 45 minutes. Then I put them on a skewer. They go into the oven for 30 minutes and bake at 250 degrees. Now, that intention is set in clay.
Very interesting.
So that was yesterday's mantra, intention and affirmation. I have three bracelets that I made at that time, and I made 13 orbit necklaces. That is all the time I had at that moment. So the lucky 3 that get the bracelets, they will repeat, I am positive today and tomorrow. And today is always today and tomorrow is always the next day.
Right.
So that's forever.
Oh.
And the 13 orbit wearers would repeat, I am positive. Remember, it's a succinct version of the longer version.
Right.
So those are ready. I'm printing up my cards later today, and those are ready for someone to work it. Who wants positivity today and tomorrow?
Wonderful. And based on the experience, and I know this may be a question you may not be able to answer, but what would you say, how long would it take for something to materialize if someone was to do the affirmation and rub their beads and actually be really into it?
I have seen, now it depends on some of the work that we need to let go of for the wonderful new things to come into our lives. So it varies from where to where. I have seen things work in a day. I wore a bracelet that happened in 10 minutes. The fact is, the opportunity that came my way 10 minutes after repeating my affirmation may have been there, but I wasn't focused on it because it wasn't within my brain frame, so to speak. It wasn't in my focus. But when I recognized it, I could, you know me, Tony, I'd raise my hand and scream, I just manifested you. You know, because it's what I desired at that moment. And it's happening because I'm wearing these beads. I'm reminding myself. I'm keeping myself focused on what I want. So when I see the green zebra walk in front of me, I see him because I was looking for him.
Very powerful. I understand that. Now, you do these beads with astrology in mind, and I know astrology has different houses. Can you tell us what the different houses mean?
Sure. So there are 12 houses that all equate to a particular stage that we each have in our lives. The first house is ourselves. It's how we look, how we present ourselves. The second house is our money and the things we value, how we make our money, how we spend our money, our financial security. I can get deep into each one, but the third house is communication. Fourth is our home and our nurturing, our maternal instincts. Fifth house is fun and entertainment. And that's also our children. The sixth house is our routine, our daily structure, our health, our hygiene, our work environment. The seventh house is our relations, how we relate to others, mostly our one-on-one intimate relationships. The eighth house is our deep-seated intensities. This could be other people's money, taxes, death. It's our reproductive system. It's our sexuality. The ninth house is, our adventure, our higher learning, our international travel, our spiritualness, our religion. The 10th house is our career. How we represent to the public image. What's our reputation? What do we do for a career? How are we noticed? The 11th house is groups, organizations, the greater of all good. The 12th house is where we go to escape. Our spiritualness, our sensitivities, our creative, our illusions, our stories, our daydreaming. How about that? Our addictions. It's also our addictions.
Wow.
So, and it's a good question because I relate those keywords where the planets are and how I want them to act.
Yeah.
So again, let's hit yesterday for the Sun and Jupiter. Well, I needed to use a Leo rising because the Sun rules Leo. So I started at 5:33 a.m. Well, don't you know, it was in the first house. So it's about my positive, myself, and I, how I am positive. So it's the first house, how I look, how I act out in public. So I use those keywords. That's
Wonderful.
all I do with the intentions and affirmations is use the keywords, the planet, the sign it's in, the house it's in, and who it's who it's talking to. Who is it friends with today? Is it friends with Saturn? Is it creating structure? Is it friends with Mercury? Is it a sextile to Mercury today? Then it's about, mental clarity. It's about speaking or reading or learning something.
Right.
So use those keywords.
Absolutely. And now I heard it already, but I'm going to let the listeners know, and I want you to let them know. Do you have a mantra, and what is the mantra?
So, I have my personal intention bracelet. I did just mention my orbit necklace. That is, I live my dream. So that's my orbit necklace for my mantra. It's my thought that passes through my head every time I repeat it. So I know I'm living what I want to do. My intention bracelet is my bigger power. I've been wearing this for 1.5 years. So I built this bracelet when Jupiter was conjoining my Venus in Taurus at the top of my chart. So I had to wait a period of time to make this for myself based on my natal chart, which we really didn't talk about, which was the personal intention bracelets. So based on my natal chart, I made this when transiting Jupiter hit my Venus. And my mantra is, I am a creative art force. I make beautiful jewelry that helps, heals, manifests others to reach their dreams. I gain financially. I repeat that every day upon wearing my bracelet, because those are the key words of Jupiter Venus in Taurus at the top of my chart in my career.
Wow. Very powerful. I know. And so let me just repeat this for the listeners. Again, this is Tony Valen, host of Healing from Within. You can follow our show, healingfromwithin.net, or contact me directly, tony@tonyvalen.com. We are joined by our guest, Sandy Rueve. Sandy is a creator of intention beads, combining her bead-making skills with her astrological wisdom. To learn more about Sandy, you can go to www.intentionbeads.com. Sandy, in looking at your website, I noticed several lines that you have. Can you tell us about them? And I'm referring to the he beads, the she beads, intention beads, and charity beads.
Okay, I'll try and do this in a, I like to talk, huh, Tom?
Oh, talk away. Talk away.
You guys were at my booth for quite a while the other day, and I had last 2 months ago, and I enjoyed myself with your team, your tri-team, your three-peat, maybe that's what it is, because a quick backstory on how I'm doing what I'm doing now. I've been in radiology since I was in 7th grade. I studied the unknown because I broke my arm in 7th grade doing a cartwheel. Of course, I'm a Leo rising. So I broke my arm, saw how no energy that I could see created something that was a film to show that I broke both bones in my body. I started studying radiology. I did this for 26 years. I became the part of the medical team for the Chicago Bulls basketball team. I was the girl in the locker room during 1993 till 1997. So while we were winning all of the championships and Michael Jordan was at the top of his game, Michael Jordan one night asked me to make him beads. I was stringing clay beads for my kids' pancake breakfast fundraiser that night, and Michael asked me to make him beads. Well, integrity and honesty, I didn't make my own beads. I buy them in bulk from some catalog from overseas, but I couldn't give this to Michael Jordan. I learned the process of Millefiori art in 1993, 21 years ago. I gave Michael his beads. I figured out the process, rolled beads, put them on elastic, gave it to him for his birthday. That night, He Beads was born. That was in 1994.
Wow.
On his birthday, February 17th. Dennis Rodman, Tony Kukoc, Phil Jackson, they were all asking for their beads. Sandy, make me beads. So I started my he bead business because beads were ornamentation. I did study. They were not jewelry in the tribal history. They represented things. But I didn't know at the time I'd be making talisman, or I did not know when I was learning to make beads. So I left radiology completely when the dream team broke up in '97, and I thought, let me see if I could become a professional bead maker. Right, Tony? You probably had that thought one time. And so I did. I quit radiology completely, started my She Beads company, and in the last 21 years have built a pretty big business, international, making handmade clay beads in my studio in Chicago. So A, handmade, B, made in America, made in Chicago, all by my artistry and under my eyes. I trained 25 artisans. So getting into She Beads and He Beads, I lost my connection to help people being in radiology. So I thought if I make a bead that had a pattern such as pink ribbon, such as teal ribbon for ovarian cancer, and the pink, of course, is for breast cancer, and I make a bead and make beautiful jewelry, I am creating awareness and giving funds back to those organizations. Okay? That's how I thought I was fulfilling the need for me to take care of others.
Yeah.
I have a moon in Cancer, and my sun is the last degree of Pisces. So I'm very sensitive, very compassionate, and want to nurture, very creative. Mm-hmm. 10 years ago, my daughter bought me an astrology reading that I had no interest in, or I thought I had no interest in at the time. The woman I sat with, because at that time my 16-year-old daughter had already purchased the reading, and of course she's 16, so I thought I'd best go. And I went, and it changed. It added on to my world again. And I started studying astrology, and she predicted, she said, Sandy, in 10 years, you will be making talisman known around the world. And I said, I don't think so. I don't know what that means. I started studying astrology, and I traveled around the world. I traveled with important astrologers, and I got it. It just kind of came to me. I love the study of this unknown energy, how it can create something tangible. And so 4 years ago, the aha moment that I spoke earlier about, I know how to put power into clay beads. If I roll them at certain astrological transits using the keywords, I am making a talisman. Oh my gosh. That's what that astrologer, my first and loved astrologer, told me 10 years ago. So I called her up and said, Barbara, you probably don't remember telling me this, but you predicted I'd be making talisman in 10 years, and I did it in 7. So that was like 10 years ago, 11 years ago. So that's what I'm doing now, Tony. I'm living my destiny based on my astrological chart. And that is how I'm helping, healing, motivating, and taking care of others.
Absolutely. So let me ask you, I know that all of us have this little question in the back of our mind, I know I'm here for a purpose. I know my purpose is this, so I'm feeling that when you found that answer, you found the answer, and your life question was answered. Is that correct?
That's correct. That is absolutely correct. But not that anything in the past was that was important for me to gather. I couldn't be here where I am now if I wasn't cognizant of all the moves I made. And I'm not done yet, Tony.
Yeah. Yeah, none of us are. I mean, it's a journey, and it doesn't come to you any sooner or any later than when it's supposed to come to you.
Exactly. Be happy where you are, but keep reaching.
Absolutely. When someone orders the intention beads from you, what is the actual process? How do they, I mean, I know you have the website and whatever, and they contact you, but what certain information do you ask of them so that you can start working on it?
So what we haven't talked about is the personal intention bracelet. So I did mention it briefly. That is the most powerful of all the talisman I make. And this is based on their natal chart. For instance, I don't know if she's a listener. I hope that she is. She will be after today. But when I was in Tampa recently, I scheduled several people, clients, that came aboard for a personal intention bracelet. We have since had our 20-minute phone conversation where I listened to their key words of what it is they want to manifest. I have gotten their birth data, where they were born, what time, what day, and what year. So I see a picture of their natal chart or their birth chart. That is what I work off of. After their conversation we have, listening to what it is they want to manifest. And remember, we have many things in our lives we want to manifest, but I talk about what's wanting to happen for this customer right now, right now in their life. Mm-hmm. So I hang up after taking notes and go to my astrology program and sit with the bi wheel and see what transits are occurring in the next 6 weeks. So I don't want to go out longer than 6 weeks because the moon moves 1.5 times. The sun moves out of one sign into another. And if we have a Mercury retrograde, which I usually don't work during that time because of that power, retrograde power of reviewing and redoing something, that I'll find an exact moment that stimulates a planet or a sign or a cusp or an angle in their chart that will relate the same words they said to me in our phone conversation. For instance, I have one particular client that I just went through this process yesterday, and I found her time to get exactly what it is she wants, which is coming up soon. It happens to be July 27th. That is this Sunday at 3:39 Central Daylight Time. I'm in Chicago. Mm-hmm. So I will, this woman will be in meditation at 4:39. That's Eastern Daylight Time. She is in Florida. And at that moment, she will be in meditation, repeating the affirmation and intention she has written. I am repeating that intention and that affirmation that she has written. She has picked out 2 colors of canes that I will go toward and grab when I'm making her beads. She wants to have a particular set of scenarios happen in her life. And I have found the time that will get her great mental activity, sharp and clear. It will improve her reasoning power. It will detach some emotion and create objectivity. She will see how her emotional state affects her entire family. That this is a new beginning because I'm making it in a new moon in Leo conjunct Jupiter. But more important than that is the fact that her chart is, I've chosen to to create an abundance of mental clarity. And that will occur for her on this time because Mercury is conjoining her Mercury. So, and it's on her ascendant. So this woman on this time is going to have the best opportunity to have mental sharpness, mental clarity, so that she can make reasonable decisions. This is what she has wanted. This is what she's manifesting. So I will make the beads at that time. She's picked a particular set of colors, and those beads will be made during that time. I will let her know that her beads are in the oven and her intention is set in clay. And in a 1 to 3 day period, I will mail these to her, and with her card, with her name on it, with her beads and the instructions on how to manifest her beads. And there she goes. She's off and running to her goal.
Wonderful. And I do have one last question for you, Sandy. I have heard that you're returning to Tampa. Tell us about that.
I have to tell you, Tony, I was so impressed. I used to come to Tampa for vacations years and years ago. And I decided Body, Mind, Spirit Group has been asking, wants me to travel. And I do a lot of their shows around the country. Mm-hmm. And I decided to do Tampa. And I was thrilled with the response. My presentation, I had 50 people in my presentation. I mean, sometimes, Tony, I'll have one person. Wow. Because they don't understand what I'm doing. A lot of attention. So I'm planning on coming back for about a 5-day period. And I've chosen September 29th. I've chosen that week. So the end of September into the beginning of October. And I want to do 1 to 2 events. One event will be a really kind of quick synopsis, maybe a 2-hour event where I'm kind of introducing what I do. It'll be a low cost, and I can have, up to 30 people in this class. I don't have a location for that. My second event, I'm going to do a Venus night. So this is about 12 people that sign up in advance for a cost, and I get all their birth data. So I do each one's chart. I see where their Venus is in their chart. And in a group setting, which will be 3 to 4 hours, each one will I will help them identify what their Venusian, what makes them feel good, what brings value to themselves. They probably already know, but I'm going to add some things probably that they don't know. And what this does is teaches the other 11 people in the room that we're all different. We all value different things. We all spend our money on different things. We all have, some need increased financial security where others don't need it so much. So to talk about that individually, and then everybody makes a talisman based on what it is they want to gain from the information that I've shared with them individually that night. So we're calling it a Venus gathering.
Very interesting. So, Sandy, when will you come back to the show and let everyone know when your workshop is in Tampa?
Please.
Okay. We'd love to be there with you. Our thanks to Sandy Rueve. Sandy is the creator of Intention Beads, combining her bead-making skills with her astrological wisdom. You can learn more about Sandy at www.intentionbeads.com. You are listening to Healing from Within with Tony Valen here on Blog Talk, airing Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Central. And you can contact me directly, Tony at tonyvalen.com. Thank you so much, and everyone have a blessed week.
Thank you, Tony.